Hi, this is Beth. Welcome to Divine Love Group. I am here once again with Nannette. Hi, Nannette.
Hello.
Nannette and I were talking, and I have a, some might call it a minor obsession or major obsession with tarot and oracle cards. I do genuinely love them, but we were thinking it might be fun to come on, draw a few cards, and just without talking about it beforehand, have a conversation about what the cards mean, maybe how they've impacted us in our life, or you just kind of go wherever the message takes us. So I brought three decks up. One is called Return to Spirit. It's a fractal art deck. The second is the Energy Oracle deck. So that's the book for it. And then last but not least is the Good Tarot deck. So I just wanted to share with you what decks we used. So we pulled one card from each. And it's kind of interesting how somehow they tend to bookend each other. So we have Innocence over here. We have the second chakra here with Archangel Ariel. And last but not least, we have Temptation here. So I just want you guys to take a look at the cards, kind of see what you get from them, what you feel from them. So we have those. So I don't know. I think what's interesting is, like, to me, they almost kind of tend to bookend each other. The way I see everything, it seems, the last several months, and I know I keep mentioning it, but it's like a pendulum, so you have your perception, you have innocence on one side, and you have temptation on the other. And temptation is something that tends to have a more negative connotation, and innocence has a more positive connotation. That, of course, is like a whole nother discussion and very easily arguable.
Inaccurate. Yes.
Yeah.
Inaccurate. Yeah.
But then it's interesting because, like, what we find right in the middle, when we find a good balance of the two, of innocence and temptation, is the second chakra being in alignment with, self-love. And, the bottom three chakras to me tend to run together. So creativity and kind of like
Intimacy.
Right. So, the combination of these three, and then, I find it interesting, like, this is not the most innocent looking picture to me. I'll just call it out right away that, like, this is not how I might put forward, the image of innocence. So there's that, there's always more than meets the eye.
But isn't it helpful to look at innocence with aligning your second chakra to, like, going back to when you were most innocent? And that is when you had the most self-confidence. That is when you understood that you loved yourself. That is when you were in balance, right?
Absolutely.
At some point, even if it was just 5 seconds after birth, before people started pulling your innocence away, you had innocence somewhere, right? And in that innocence, you understood who you were. You stood in your power. You loved yourself. You were able to be intimate with others because you knew who you were, right?
Without question.
And isn't there a temptation to go back to the innocence, right? I don't know. I'm just playing with the words of the cards.
That's true, though. And there is, especially, right now, like when this is being recorded, right? So we're all in, like, this COVID lockdown, and everybody is kind of confined to their houses and whatnot. So we've all had a bunch of time to go within and look and do all this deep dive. So, as an adult, we have, I'm now homeschooling my kids to some extent. They have cyber school. And, when they come to me and say, why do I have to do this? I'm like, I don't know. Like, like all of these, like, temptations to return to the innocence of, like, it really doesn't matter. Like, this particular thing in life, like, nope, you're never going to use it. You just have to, like, suck it up and do it,
I know. I found that too. I'm like,
right?
What's the point in this?
Right. All these people working from home, all of a sudden they're like, well, why do I have to go every single day? Can I find a balance? Like, do I need a paycheck? Do I have to work? Do we need money? Do we need, like, and, like, this return to, like, well, okay, we can, hope for this or that, or why not just, like, have that childlike innocence and shoot for the stars and say, okay, well, everything's gonna be completely different, and it's, like, something we've never imagined before.
Yes, I think so. I think on a more open perspective, but all of it's related to, taking the time to go within. And I think that's important, even if you are still working during this time. And a lot of people do have to work, and thank God they have the work. Um, take a little time to meditate and go within and find your self-love. Go back to your innocence and knowing that you are worthy. Oh, that's just it's a conversation we had earlier.
Yeah, right.
Dang on you people. that that you are worthy. You're worthy. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, I got chills.
Perfect tie-in. So what we were talking about just like briefly before we started recording this, and it honestly had nothing to do with the cards itself, it was just the conversation we were having is, sometimes there's almost like you can't see very far ahead of yourself, on your path, even though you're used to normally being able to see far ahead and kind of have some sort of a sense as to what's coming. And so when you don't, it's almost like, well, it's, you have the chance of falling back and saying, well, maybe I'm not worthy, or maybe that's not just what I was thinking. But it's that surrender to, just letting things happen. I know they come through in every single same words come through in every conversation.
Yes.
Having the ability to surrender and say, like, okay, maybe I as a human don't know what is 100% best for me, and there's this huge wide open realm of possibilities that stand before me. So yeah, being worthy.
Which we delved into that very deeply, I think, about 2 years ago, and I think we really worked through that. But it is worth saying that these are still things that it's like I call it an echo. It will echo back into you, and I call it an echo because it gives it no power, right? It's an echo of where you were before. Right. I hope people will use that, because it's an echo. It's an echo, because that is all it is. It's an echo of, I've been in this place where I felt unworthy. And sometimes that echo will come up in an argument or in a situation or in the fact that you don't know what's coming next. And you have to kind of quash that echo. You have to remind yourself, go back to your innocence of who you are. I am worthy. I know who I am. I've already worked through this. Why would I fall back into that? Let that echo go. The echo can dissipate and you move on. But it's important to point it out, because I don't know that people realize that everybody goes through this. Everybody gets, re-inundated with stuff that they have healed and they have cleared.
Yep.
It's because you clear it and heal it and you bring it back into yourself. You don't kick it away. That'll just keep it there. So once it's back in you, it can always echo back out. You know what I mean? I know I'm talking in a weird way, but
no, I totally get it. And it's kind of the way that I see planets going retrograde too. It's the same idea. And like, I am not an astrologer. It feels like the same energy to me, that you go through these things, and right, they say that I always get the exact words of quotes wrong, but you guys will get the idea that, the only thing that is like completely idiotic is doing the same thing over and over again in the same way and expecting different results, right? So, well, it's not the only thing that's completely idiotic, but one of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to keep doing the same thing over and over in the exact same way and expecting different results, right? And a lot of us on, no matter what journey you are on, like no matter how spiritual it is or isn't, it kind of doesn't matter in this particular instance, in that you're making progress as a human being and learning lessons, right? So you can look at that any way you want, but you don't feel like you've made much progress until you stop and look back, right? And so if the same situation presents itself to you and you react differently, and then you look and say, oh, I learned so much from that first one. I reacted this way. If it comes back to me again, maybe I'll tweak it, or nope, I nailed it. I got it. It's awesome. I'm moving on. So it's also a self-bolstering kind of like, I can see my progress. And I think that lets you move on to next lessons too. So it's the same idea as that echo. It's just like I don't know, different
Mm-hmm.
visual almost. I see it like rungs of a ladder that you're like, okay, pause. Can you go? Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
I like
Okay.
the echo though. That does. I like the idea that that gives it very little power. I think that's pretty brilliant.
It does. It does. Yes, because it's an echo of something from the. I love echo.
Yeah.
That's a word I've been using for several years, and I started using it when, I healed my psoriatic arthritis,
Mm-hmm.
but I have not completely healed the bones. So sometimes I'll have some pain, and I say, well, that's just an echo, because then I'm not giving it power. You can easily build back a disease that you've healed by giving it too much power, right?
Yep.
So, oh, that was just an echo. Let me get into that and take that away right now, But
Sure.
yeah. Okay.
I
I'm
will.
done.
I feel like we should talk more about temptation too. Um, so especially in relation to innocence, right? So here's the temptation card. Like this is, in this tarot deck, this is the equivalent to the devil card. So a lot of times that's kind of like it's a bunch of different things, but in this card there's there's a huge pot of gold, and like all these like gold items down below, this gigantic apple, like, and she's just kind of like flopped on it like whatever. Right. So you could
Mm-hmm.
look at it like a bunch of different ways, like in regards to like bookending it with innocence though. As we get older too, like we feel like we have to do things, and we feel like we have to um like there's like certain, it's selfish, like people are just got all that money there, like it's almost like people have trouble like coming to terms with the fact that they want to manifest a lot for themselves and giving
Mm-hmm.
themselves the permission. Again, it's worth, self-worth and being worthy of that kind of stuff, but this card just like really highlights that for me, especially is the opposite side of innocence, is not giving yourself that like permission of just your given right to.
Yeah, it's almost like it's saying, why do you think you deserve this?
Yeah.
You don't, yeah. So it's like an opposite. Like, do you really deserve this? What have you done to deserve this? Who the hell needs to be talking to me that way? Who do you think you are? Even if it's your own self, like, go
Yeah.
back to your innocence, go back to knowing your worth
Yeah.
and understanding, I deserve things. Yeah, I might have to do certain things or maybe not. Maybe I've figured out the law of attraction, and that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
However you want to manifest something into your life, we need to give ourselves permission to allow ourselves to have the things that we really want to manifest. Oh, that sounded all
No.
that sounded so motherly.
Yeah, well, you have that side.
Don't talk about my other side.
But there's like this whole like childlike wonder and innocence, right, to all of that too, and making sure that, like, I mean, that is part of temptation in and of itself. Like, it's imagination just keeps popping through like really clearly for me on both ends, both from innocence and from the temptation standpoint, and like kind of where they happily marry in the middle is pure creativity and imagination.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And let yourself stay in that spot. There is the temptation to pull out, to look at how, you were trained to see things a certain way, and you're so tempted. I'm working right now. Have you seen some of my videos? I'm working on unraveling
The illusion.
the illusion. So, we've all been trained this way, and to think that you have to do this to get that, or you have to be this to be that, or you have to, show something to certain people, and you have to do things according to what other people think, or what you started to believe is the way it is. And is that true? Is it really what you believe, or is it just something, you know what I mean? Oh, this is just too deep. This is too, but it's true. It's true. We have the middle, and it's so easy to be pull back into either side, like either, sometimes innocence can pull you to a lethargic spot if you think you should just marinate in it. Do you know what I mean? If you take it too literally and go too far, and the temptation to punish yourself, I'm going to just put it the way I see it. And then there's a temptation to punish yourself. So there's someone coddle me, someone punish me. Let me put my power together. Let me see the power in the innocence and bring it to the middle. And let me see the power in my temptations, because I only want something for a reason. It's not like we all want the same exact thing. So why? Okay, I don't know where I was going with that. It just came to me.
Right. And what I was kind of seeing, like, I like it that, it's like I get these like visuals when you're talking. It's almost like, like innocence, like lifts you like way up. It's like a helium balloon, right? So you're like going off into the clouds. And then you've got temptation is like the balloon weight. It's like, hey, keep this earthbound, to some extent, go crazy with your imagination, because you don't want to box yourself in. But then keep it earthbound too, so that it is, you're still tied here, and it becomes something that you can actually pull into physicality, even if it doesn't seem legitimate or possible. And then in the middle, you have those, like, again, I just kind of combine the lower three chakras overall, and like, the happy little medium. So it's like high, medium, and low, of like, up in the clouds, down to earth, and like somewhere in the middle, pulling it in. It's like a portal almost.
Yeah, because your root chakra is very rooted into the earth. It's about survival on the earth, right? And then their next chakra, so they do tie together. So the grounding into the earth, and then the balance of self-love and creativity, and then I don't know what the next one represents. I don't remember. Well,
say solar plexus, like willpower, right? Like willpower is what I generally, and then the upper are separate. The upper four, really.
Yeah.
To me.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting too. Temptation is grounding. How about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think so. I think it does ground you, as long as you don't go too far in either direction. It's the same with anything. You have to learn to balance everything.
Yeah.
And the balance is really the core of who you are, is it not? If you are in balance, then you are in complete touch with who you truly are, because when you understand who you are, you don't run in all different directions. We all have those moments where we really understand who we are, at least on a whatever level that is for you. You understand who you are. You don't feel nervous. You don't feel scared. You're not trying to run somewhere to get something done. You're balanced. You're balanced because you know who you are. You know you can have whatever you want. I'm not going to say that. It's something about divine timing, and I don't want to say that.
We're not going there. Yeah.
We're just going to fight that to the end, right?
No, we're going to be patient. We're going to allow divine timing to make it worse.
I love that you're putting that face on for the world. No, I'm just teasing you.
I'm working hard on this. I am not a master, but I'm working hard on this.
Yeah.
I do know how important it is, but it's hard. It's really hard. It's really hard to do.
It causes you to really have to
No. Sorry guys, we just had a little technical glitch there. But we're back with audio again. I'm just gonna edit that part out. So there's gonna be a little jump. That's cool. And now I kind of lost track of where we were. However,
surrender is the word I wanted to say when I got cut off. So yeah, we can go from there. It causes you to need to surrender.
Yeah.
To be patient and deal with, yes.
Yeah.
Another favorite word.
I know. I as we were cut off, I said it like kind of giggling a little. I'm like, surrender, because I need. I'm looking really hard at this card too. Like, she's so deep in contemplation. I don't know. Like that middle ground. But I love the golden hue of it. I mean, I know that's obviously what's related to that chakra, but it's just like that warm light of like balance, I guess. And this also goes back to a video I have on my channel. This is going up on both Nannette and my channel, so on Divine Love Group, about how you know what truth is, I believe. Now I forget what video it was, but it talks a lot about like stripping your belief systems down and pulling back and really kind of trying to identify what you truly believe, by using your body as the litmus test, and what you feel, what you've just picked up and learned either through ancestral, DNA, or through conversations, or just you grew up with that, or you heard that, or it's so indoctrinated in you through media, friends, it's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so going through and like really stripping all that out and figuring out exactly who you are and what you genuinely believe is worlds different than just following what logic or what you've been told all along. And it's a very different way of living when you make that shift. Definitely everybody around you thinks you're a little crazy, that's for sure. And you question it yourself for some time, but then it brings you into a place of a much broader understanding that makes living a lot more pleasurable, to be honest, in all ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you do break it down, and I do that in my self-empowerment classes too, when you do break it down, you really start to realize that most of your beliefs are not even your own beliefs. So what I teach is, what do you want to believe? Because that's really the bottom of it. The truth is that we create our own reality, and whatever you want to believe will help you to, it changes things around you.
Right.
Your beliefs. Yeah.
Right.
That's
and it's fascinating too. Like I think very well, and it's surprising how many people, myself included, for a long time, like one of the biggest fears we have is the fear of success, which just sounds so ridiculous, but it's almost a universal fear. I would be willing to bet more people are scared of success than they are of dying.
Probably, yeah.
And that's why we self-sabotage ourselves. Which comes back to, innocence and like feeling that like self-assuredness of knowing who you are and what you like and what you need, and pulling it back full circle to like, to this. Like, it can be tempting to go towards success. It can also be tempting to pull yourself towards failure. Like, it's your choice. It's your reality.
Yeah, because then nobody will expect anything out of me, right? Including me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to put yourself out there. It's just like, I know you may or may not be the same, but I resisted going on YouTube. I was never going to go on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And my guide started pushing me toward it. And I was like, no, I don't want to be on YouTube, and it's not about success or I guess it is. I guess you feel like, to me, it doesn't matter how many people see the message, but it'll help someone. But what if nobody wants to see my message? You know what I mean? It is a success or failure thing.
Yeah. Which again comes back to our self-worth conversation, and for me, it was like, well, what do I have to share that people care about or don't already know, or all of these different things. And the idea, at least for this channel, was more about, I'm really big on believing that like connections are really important. I mean, it's first and foremost important to go within and find out who you are, but there's so much growth that happens when you have these connections and have these conversations, and it may seem like no big deal to so many people, but for you and I to jump on a video, having momentarily, drawn 3 cards and said, we're not allowed to talk about this, record. and then just have a conversation about it, like definitely puts us slightly out of our comfort zone, you know.
Just a little.
But, you know, for whatever reason, like, I don't know if it's boredom or like, let's try this, let's do it, you know, let's see where it goes. Like somewhere, somehow, somebody's going to get a message that they need, and that's all that matters. And then to your point, it's not about like the numbers of people that see it. And I think it's the exponential growth that people have from it. So like one little tiny seed planted turns around and, you know, pollinates a ton of other seeds that get planted and grow as well.
Absolutely. I agree. Awesome.
So
I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about the cards. Do you?
No, not really. It's funny how, I mean, and the pattern's going to come through no matter how many videos we do, you know, surrender, self-worth, divine timing, you know, but no matter what, everything comes down, right? You can argue that everything comes down to like love or fear, right? I think that is a very,
it's true. There's either love or fear. I agree with that.
Yeah, you can tie everything back one way or another, and you just need to decide which side you stand on, or if you straddle, or if, you know, it can be a little of both. You know, nobody is pure in either direction. But then just so many of like the underlying causes and so many of the conversations around anything spiritual related whatsoever are going to come back to patience, divine timing, surrender, and self-worth, or ego on the other side of self-worth. You know, like it's both, again, finding the middle ground. So I don't know, I think it's interesting, but thanks for playing along. I had fun.
Me too. I had fun too.
Thanks guys for joining. Always welcome comments and discussions down below in the comments. We love you. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.